At this point, science is standing by while the crew and the dredge technicians are emptying out the dredge and making sure that everything is secured and safe. They let us come and swarm all over the rocks. All right, so when we get the dredge on deck and empty everything out, and we get the okay to go and sort through everything, we're going to try to go for the larger rocks and most representative lithologies first, if it's possible to tell what we have. So we start with the bigger specimens. If needed, we break those open, but we grab everything that's about the right size or shape that we can go ahead and cut easily. Start moving that over to the rock saw. Sometimes we find biological specimens in the dredge hull, and we've been finding more than we have in past dredges with this new design with the interior netting. So we're going through some of the smaller pieces to look for things like shark's teeth or squat lobsters or corals or other biological fossils fragments that we can document. With the larger samples, we'll go and split those open because these are a little bit too big to fit safely on the rock saw, and safety comes before just about everything else at sea. So what we're doing is trying to split the piece off of the rocks. Try to limit how many pieces we knock those rocks into, but if we can get a good smaller chunk that we can then cut up on the saw safely, that's the way to go. And we try to load all of the pieces of the rocks we split into one bucket or into multiple buckets that are carefully labeled and communicated to everybody moving them that, hey, this is all one sample that we're moving at once. That way we don't go and get it mixed up, or we don't accidentally label that as two samples. So once we get the rocks over to the saw, what we're doing is we take each piece that we've retrieved from the dredge and we cut it into half or into slabs. And at that point, once the rock is cut, it gets its own individual bucket, and that can then be carried into the labs to be worked on. And generally, we set this up like a production line, so you have one person moving rocks onto the saw and doing the cutting. You have one person carrying them into the lab. You have one person who is going to wash them once they're in the lab to get all the salt water off, and from there we run those washed, clean samples, one sample at a time, over to a table to dry, where it's put into its own individually marked square on the table.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do when we bring the rocks in, after washing them, is to set them out on the table with their sample numbers labeled in each individual square over here.
We always have two of these. One stays here, and one goes with you whenever it's going to a microscope, getting photographed, anything. It's always so there's no mix-up.
Next, we want to let these samples dry out before we photograph and weigh them.
I'm going to take a picture and then show you that it's cropped afterwards.
When we're photographing the samples, we like to weigh them at the same time. Just makes it easier. So what we'll do, again, we always have the sample number tag wherever we go. Have a weight. Bucket on. Pair it to 0. And I got it. Hang it up. And then this will give the sample weight. So that's 2.8 kilograms for this sample. Once they're photographed and weighed, we're going to take them under the microscope and describe them, their characteristics, their physical characteristics, and identify what kind of mineral phases are present. After that, we're going to take these priority samples from PIs, which have been identified by them, for analysis, cut them into slabs for experiments, and thin sections, and billets for thin sections. Once we finish that process, we're going to start bagging them up. Once they're all weighed and put into respective plastic bags, those bags are then put into rice bags, which are then again weighed and finally put over into the crates to be shipped to the repository. Of course, the samples for the PIs are going to be placed elsewhere in a box for immediate processing. All right, so one of the most important things when we're doing these dredges is to make sure that we're packing them up and they're going to their correct destinations. So what I've done here, for this dredge, we only had one rock, but it's being sampled by one of the PIs. So here are the 2 bags going to the PIs. We'll put those separately. Each bag has the sample number written on it, as well as a tag printed. There's also a tag inside the bag, just in case that tag falls off. And that's just kind of help reinforce things to make sure that if you lose a tag or if the markers fade off a little bit, you'll still have a backup. Usually with pretty much every dredge we'll have a few leftovers that we end up just putting in a single bag called unnumbered samples. Sometimes it's multiple bags, sometimes it's just bags of ferromanganese nodules. We also have a few bio bags here and there. The rest of the main sample will go into a bag that's just named the cruise, the dredge number, and the sample number. And again, this has the sample written on both sides. It has a tag on the outside, and then it'll also have a tag going on the inside. And here's the tag going inside. So usually what I'll do is I'll work with 2 or 3 people to make sure that each person is handling one thing. So I'll hand this off to somebody else and say, make sure that this goes into the PI's priority box. And here's the PI taking that box, to that box rather. Finally, the repository bags are going to be going in giant rice bags. So again, these are just numbered cruise number, dredge number, bag number 1, and which samples are in this bag. So we do this with each bag, label them 1 to whatever, and have their sample numbers on there just for the repository, for clarification for them. So once we have this, I usually have a checklist that I'll hand off to another person. Val, you can be that other person. And on that checklist, it'll have a number next to the sample, and I will visually say what I'm putting in there just to make sure there's no confusion. So since we only have one sample here, I just say sample 1 is going into bag 1, and she'll write that next to bag 1. And then I'll say unnumbered samples going into bag 1.
Correct.
And they're in bag 1.
Yep.
And then we'll, since we're all done, we can tie this up, wrap it up. The next thing we're going to do is weigh this bag. So we'll do that right now.
Okay.
All right, so the next step we're going to do is weigh this bag. We're going to put it to kilograms, and the weight's going to be off by, plus or minus a few kilograms, but, that's the best we can do on a ship. So we'll kind of hold that there. And it's moving around. We'll say 5.5 kilograms. So we'll write that on the packing list. Make sure that's recorded. We also have here on this list, or if it's a bigger dredge, we'll have a separate priority list, which is going to have all of the PI samples here. So for the bigger dredges, I'll actually have a second checklist, which highlights which samples are taken from which PI, and we can show you that on a different dredge here. So now I'm going to get a zip tie, bag this up. So once it's zip tied, I'll double check with the PI, make sure everything's okay. Are we okay to put the rice bags in the bin? We get the final okay, and we're done. So this is kind of what our dredge checklist will look like. We like to print these out first. They also are going to be in the computers as well, but this is just, again, to just kind of help reinforce things. So the dredge checklist is good for photos and weights. Make sure that those get recorded individually. Again, the bag numbers are going to be recorded later when we put those samples in the bags. Just a little comment section just in case you need more labels or anything you need to write on there. And then there's also this priority checklist that we use. We have 3 different PIs on this dredge, and each of them are taking thin section and slab, thin section and slab, and then the weights of each one of those, which will also go into the master packing list.
We keep a PI version of the checklist that tracks through the entire process from right after we bring the dredge on board and we start sorting through the rocks and start processing them, which we'll keep a running commentary going with the members of the watch. You know, things like getting the rocks sorted out, cut open, saw area clean, which is very important, keeping your work area as clean as possible between dredges. Getting things organized and numbered, photographed, weighed, all of those steps come through. And we also make sure that there are various checks in this list for things like making sure that the logs are updated at certain points. So that's an easy thing to forget with a million different things going on. So it's good to have an actual entry for something like that on your to-do list, and just make sure that it gets done. You know, we sometimes say it's too easy to fall behind on that, and make sure all the subsampling's done, descriptions are checked, typed up, all of that. So all the different little steps in our process.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important things that you'll see us doing is redundancy.
Yes.
We have a lot of built-in redundancy with our checklists that may seem like you're doing work a couple of times, and kind of are, but at the same time, this kind of mitigates any type of mislabeling, missampling, things that can really affect experiments later on down the road. So the built-in redundancy is for a reason, and it's a good thing to do to kind of go slow and steady.
Yeah, and if I'll see something in a file, or he'll look at something that's written in a description, and we'll go, hang on, that seems a little strange, and then we can go double check, make sure that it's correct. If it's not, we'll go make a quick correction on that. But yeah,
and mistakes do happen.
Mistakes do happen, and yeah, keeping some written records, keeping the digital records, and just keeping very careful track of everything that we've got out and about in the lab. That is key to keeping this operation running smoothly. And yeah, we've got a couple of minor things, but nothing that's really caused any problems at all, and it's all been pretty easily sorted out. Yep. So normal stuff. Great.